My name is Steve Rochlin with Enjoy the Music. I officially hate PowerPoint presentations, but I was forced to do this. But this is the music everywhere, and we are going to make it informative and entertaining. Or you're welcome to throw things at the panelists.
No, you throw things at him.
That'll work. I guess I should introduce the person immediately to my left is Tyll Hertsens of Headroom. Oh, I better hit this button. Most of you, I'll let them give a brief overview of what they do. Then we have Bobby Oster. Then we have Stephen Stone. Okay.
Yeah, just don't pay any attention to me. I'm not really here.
Then we have Stephen Stone.
Oh, well, we should change seats because we're not in the right place for the PowerPoint. Oh, my gosh.
Right. And then we have Dylan Rhodes of Logitech, followed by Bobby Oster in the black shirt, and definitely not least is Neal and Berg of Sound Science. As for myself, if you're not familiar with who I am the editor and chief slave to Enjoy the Music. .com website, which is basically started as a labor of love and now is like 5,000 web pages, and I would have made more money flipping burgers. But that's not the point. The point is I'm a musician, classically trained, began playing in '72, learned to solder at age 5, worked for Heathkit. For those who are old enough to remember, there was a thing called Heathkit that we used to build kits, which I loved, especially because I was young and it was the only legal high for sniffing the lead solder fumes, because that was legal back then. It's an AA meeting, right? Fast forward, I still play drums, have fun, but as technology has moved onward, now we're no longer the clunky Walkmans, or even before that I had a little Panasonic transistor radio, and now we have all sorts of things, and we're looking for convergence. We're all looking for ways to better integrate music into our lives, so we can dance around the living room or with our lovely wives or significant others, or however we choose to listen to music. I will let Tyll Hertsens introduce himself and tell you a little more about Headroom.
Hi. Headroom, we started this thing 16 years ago or something like that. We manufacture headphone amplifiers and sell headphones. We started doing it when there was no such thing as a headphone amplifier and nobody knew what they were, and now they actually do probably. And that's how far we've gotten in 16 years. I'm here because I like music, I guess, and like to have it everywhere. And I actually think this is what you're going to find here is a audiophile anger management panel, because you can't get music everywhere, and it's just an unfulfilled promise that is possible, but we don't have it. So anyway, that's me.
I love everybody. I have no anger. I'm a journalist. My name's Stephen Stone. I write for The Absolute Sound. I also write for Enjoy the Music. I used to write for Stereophile. I used to write for Stereophile Guide to Home Theater. And whoever else will pay me enough money to make me write for them. But it's funny, Steve mentioned his first Walkman. I used to be a commercial photographer. I did that for 25 years. And I used to do a catalog that had one of the very first Sony Walkman in it. And I remember when in my studio when the Sony guy first showed me this thing, and I looked at it and went, cool, how much? I want it, after about 3 seconds. And that's kind of the reaction that people have toward the idea of really having music everywhere and having it at a sound quality level that keeps them involved in the music. And yes, Tyll said, we're not there yet. And part of this panel is to perhaps talk about that and let people know where we are. We're close. And that's, I think, what's somewhat frustrating and somewhat brings out the anger management, is we're so close, but we're not there yet.
Close. So close and yet so far away.
All right, that's enough.
I'm Dylan Rhodes. I'm with Logitech. Now, Logitech is what's printed on my paychecks, but I like to think of myself as an employee of Slim Devices. We make these squeeze box and transporter network music systems. We're still very much a startup. We have a completely separate building in a different city from the Logitech mothership. Now, before I forget, I brought some swag. There's some T-shirts and some hats in a box in the back wall. In case anybody's missing some T-shirts and hats, please help yourself. Goody.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Bobby Oster. I work for Sonos. I've been with the company for a little over 5 years. I work as one of our account managers there. I've been a musician my whole life. I love music. I'm really passionate about it. At Sonos, what we try to do is fulfill on that dream of music around your house. We make a wireless multi-room music system that will let you play really high-quality, high-fidelity content and stream that around your house, and so you don't have to compromise, but you can still get all the great benefits of going digital. And so I'd like to talk a little bit more about that, and glad to be here.
Do you have any T-shirts and hats?
No hats, no T-shirts, sorry.
I brought T-shirts.
I'm Neal Berg. I own Sound
we're the only ones
Science.
that did bring T-shirts and hats.
I build a universal music server that works with Logitech players, and I also work with Sonos products. And my background's a little different. I'm an electrical engineer. When I was 19, I was production manager at Diskwasher, so I've been around audio for a while.
Wow, that was quick. So I guess, and starting's always with the first step. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, which is usually a good way to start the morning, I turn on my stereo in, frankly, first thing is in the bathroom. I'm still doomed to those. I've got I just moved, so be patient. I only have 3 stereos right now set up in the house. It'll be more. But I'm hoping to reduce that. So in a sense, this panel is just as much helping me learning as it is hopefully for you, because I go in my bathroom and, turn on my bathroom stereo, do the toothbrushing. I won't tell you about the other things because you don't want to know. And then eventually make it to my office where I'll turn that system on and then listen to some stuff. And hopefully sometime at night I actually take time off, hopefully, and then have a stereo in there where maybe I'll watch some TV and whatnot. But the point is that, there's a lot of different things as well, as I used to actually be a judge for car audio competitions. And I know, and for me, it's definitely been an uphill battle with audiophiles. You can't get top quality sound in a car, and I will definitely debate you there. And no, they're not boom boxes. But what was brought up earlier is what happens, let's say I'm listening to one thing at home, and I go in my truck, and of course it's blaring probably the last thing that I was screaming and yelling to, instead of being seamless from one point to another. I'm assuming everybody has an iPod or probably owns an iPod. Or
How about a show of hands? How many
show
people
of
have iPods?
or something along those lines.
Wait, iPods, just iPods.
Just iPods,
Or
none of that
iPods or
other
iPhones,
crap.
an Apple, portable Apple
Only.
product?
Portable Apple.
Apple portable.
All right, now who
product.
owns the Zune or a Microsoft one? Look at that, a couple.
All right, you can leave now.
And then who owns something else, a portable player that's not either? How many are Sansas? Anybody own a Sansa portable player?
You lose.
All right, too bad. Those are the good ones. Those are the ones that sound good.
Oh, you're brutal.
Well, I'm just letting you know. They're the ones that sound good.
But he actually does know his stuff, but I'll fight you. The Zune's actually a darn good player, too. I tried the iPod. But, so basically, I guess, the hater over there, and I have to agree with him, though, is that we are so close. I mean, for most of us, it seems, the average age group is such that we remember, obviously we were using our vinyl, and then CD was introduced. And with computer technology and all launching, now there definitely is some frustration because we do have the major labels trying to control this. DRM, thank God's on its way out. But it's like, okay, we have our music, but how do we, as these guys brought up, converge it? So I guess I will go to Tyll, who's got some great ideas. I mean, Tyll of Headroom really is, so to speak, in the trenches, business-wise and whatnot in this. So
He actually
maybe
lives in a trench.
literally.
Well,
but
first, I want to say that both the Sonos and the Squeezebox devices are probably as close as you can get. I mean, I've been looking at both those products for a long time. Personally, I have the Squeezeboxes, but both sets of products are pretty good for the home environment and to get some music around your house. But I guess as an opening to this thing, what I would want to draw is a little picture where when you wake up in the morning, your alarm clock knows that you want to hear the 1812 overture for 30 seconds, and then you want latest PBS news blurb and the latest ABC news blurb, and then you want to play a little punchy junk jazz as you get in the shower, and then you're going to go in the living room and you're going to want to play classical music or something like that for a little while. And then you put on your iPod and you stick it in your ears, and it's playing the same thing. That's what's in your house, and you walk out of your house and you go for a little walk with the dog, and then you come back to the house and you pull the earbuds out and the house is playing the same thing that you were just hearing. And then time to go to work, and you get in the car and you turn the car on and the car is playing that stuff, and you back out of your driveway and you go to the office. So the real issue is this ability to somehow seamlessly have music, and not just music, but programmatic material, news, talk radio, or whatever turns your widget,
Which you have control on.
And yes, and not necessarily tight control, because one of the big problems is how many hours a week do you really want to spend creating playlists? What I really want is to tell my computer, look, I want something like Yellow Jackets for an hour, and then I want some freaking Mozart or something for an hour, or something like that, and then it gets the gist of what you want, and then just knows to play
That's
things
sort
that
of
you
what
like.
Great radio was all about, great FM radio,
Yeah.
in that there's a sort of organic mixture of music that has some sort of theme that might not be linear.
Yeah. But the last thing I want to add in that picture is that the problem is the convergence, and the real problem is that Apple wants everything to converge, but only on Apple stuff.
Right.
Right. So if you have some other taste or some other piece of gear, you're not going to get that. I mean, and so the problem is that the big boys really are fighting this game where they're trying to create their own system, their own world of convergence, and lock people out of it. And it makes it extremely difficult for innovative small companies that are trying to produce very high quality audio that isn't really necessary for the mass public. It makes it extremely difficult. And at this point, yesterday I was talking to Steve. I said the most logical thing for you to do as a person is to buy an iPod with some Shure 530 headphones, and he whips out his bag, an iPod and Shure
this?
530 headphones. Okay,
And these.
now I don't have a product in that mix. I make the world's best portable headphone amplifiers, but I can't get the numbers out of the iPod to give you that experience on the road. And the Sansa is a better sounding player, but it's a pain in the butt to get your music and stuff together. Apple really has done a great job in creating this converged
seamless
stuff.
thing. But the problem is, one of my pet peeves currently with almost all products out there is the search engines are so primitive. The ways that they force you to try to access your music is not the way a human being wants to look and find music. I mean, any of us who have a large CD collection or a large music collection will go and sit down and want to listen to some music, and we'll grab something. And the cut will be halfway through it, and you'll think about, oh, the drummer on that. Oh, I remember he played on this other thing. And okay, you go over and buy and get and pull down another piece of music that has that drummer, and then, oh, the sax player is playing on that drummer. Now, I remember he played with this other guy who was the guitarist, and I want to hear the guitarist who. And the way our brains work in organizing information is far more sophisticated and far more open-ended than any of the ways that currently computerized metadata have the ability to search for that information. Until music servers and digital music files give us that level of ease and fluidity in finding and going to our music, it can never replace silver discs or LPs or whatever else that allow us to use this much more organic and human-like search, which is the way we find things. That's where iTunes is have anybody tried the iTunes Genius function? If that's a genius, God, I'm God. If that's a genius, in terms of level of intellect.
Do you want to explain a little more what the Genius function is for those that haven't used it by chance? What it tries to do.
It tries to relate and find, based on what you're playing, it tries to find other music that you will like or is similar in some way. The problem is it's the metadata that it mines for its affinity is fairly limited. I mean, it makes Pandora's metadata search engine look fairly sophisticated. And I know if you're anybody here who's not familiar with Pandora. Pandora is an internet radio site that allows you to build stations based on musicians and artists. In other words, if I like Ry Cooder, I can make the Ry Cooder radio station through Pandora. It will play cuts by Ry Cooder. It'll also play cuts by other musicians who have similar music to Ry Cooder. And then every time a cut plays, you can tell it, I like that cut or I don't like that cut. As it acquires more information about what you like, it builds a playlist for you. If you select 5 in a row that say, hate that, hate that, hate that, that sucks, it goes, I'm sorry, you can't reject anymore, which is one of its shortcomings, at which point I usually go on and build another station like the John Fahey station or the John Hyatt station if you get enough of these stations put together in your playlists, it allows you a certain amount of flexibility, but still, it's a machine trying to connect the dots, and it's not nearly as sophisticated as a human being connecting the dots. Like one of my favorite internet radio stations is something called kitchenradio.ca. The Canadians, they're just all hip. But it bills itself as redneck jazz. And they play older jazz, they play western swing, they play country, they play singer-songwriter, they play roots, they play Americana. But the way they connect the dots and mix them up and how they choose to go from one cut to the other cut at times just makes me go, wow, they get it. They have a really neat, there's an overriding musical intelligence there that I, as another human being, immediately respond to, recognize, and respect. That unfortunately, with computerized search engines, they ain't there yet. You know, maybe they can beat me at chess, but they can't really choose what kind of music I want next. While a DJ very often can. And that's the level that I think we all really want to see music servers and portable music systems get to. I mean, the example Tyll first used, right now, I don't know of any, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know of any system that lets you put together playlists that's partially from your own, say, iTunes library and internet radio and intersperse them and go back and forth and also tell the playlist I want to have that for 5 minutes and I want to go over here for 10 minutes and I want to go back there for 5 minutes.
Well, I'd like to say a little bit more about Pandora. It certainly has its limitations. I was doing an event with the founder of Pandora a few weeks ago, and for a while they were trying to find out why people were hitting the thumbs up or the thumbs down button and providing a one-line field for you to enter. And the best piece of feedback they got was, come on, dude, it's Journey. and that kind of exemplifies some of the Pandora. The algorithm is great, and it certainly just embarrasses genius. But it's only so good, you know. Okay, so I like Alan Parsons and some other '70s stuff, but I don't want to hear Journey, and I run for my controller and hit the thumbs down button. But if anybody here hasn't tried Pandora, I urge you to, and please. Pay for the upgraded subscription. It's $36 a year. It happens to be free on my products, but I pay for it anyway. You may have seen that they're kind of on the ropes right now. The record industry, because they're in trouble and they're seeing their revenue stream from selling shiny plastic discs evaporate.
Right the first time. Shiny plastic dicks.
How do you really feel about the recording industry, Dylan? Yeah. So what they're trying to do is they're realizing that the notion of selling music one copy at a time may be going away. So they're looking at the revenue stream for the 21st century, and getting money for every time somebody listens is the way to do it, even if that means Pandora has to be a casualty. But a really cool thing about Pandora and how it relates to the music everywhere. The typical listening experience for Pandora, what it used to be for me and a lot of my friends, is it's what you listen to at work. You slap on the headphones and you fire up Pandora in a browser, you minimize the browser, and you do your PowerPoint or your Excel or whatever. Now, both my products and Bobby's products talk directly to Pandora. You can set up stations, you can do the thumbs up and thumbs down, and control your listening environment with Pandora directly from the controller. But this is the cool thing. Because it's been largely a headphones at work kind of thing, it's really been a private, personal experience. in a couple of senses. First, private, because you're listening to it with your headphones at work, and personal, because you're personalizing your radio station. But this is the cool thing. I actually came to work for Slim Devices a couple of months after I happened to get one of my products as a present, and that was cool because I got to work for the company that made the product I loved. And when I first got the product, I first thought I would use it to listen to my music collection. But once I figured out how to get Pandora on the controller, I never looked back. And the cool thing is I got to take what was a deeply personal listening experience with these stations I had created and listen to it throughout my house and share it with my family. And that was just pretty awesome. I think I cut you off.
No, I was just going to comment a little bit more on the big challenge faced when you have this age of unlimited music. When you have 5 million tracks at your fingertips, it's all about which tracks do you want to listen to, and that's what Pandora and Genius and these services are trying to solve. And it's really difficult because there's really two approaches to it. You have a personal human taste where you have your friends who like particular music and they might make a recommendation to you, and maybe you have different friends that are really good at particular genres of music. You have a friend who's really good at jazz and another friend who's really the cutting edge rock guy. And so you're able to go to these people and find out that great information and get these great recommendations. And I think the challenge is, how do you make that programmatic? How do you put it into a computer and still have that human touch, but then are able to extend that out to millions of songs and let people listen to it? And Pandora is a pretty good approach right now because you do have that feedback system. But I think there's still a lot of work that could be done as far as finding out new stuff. Dylan had mentioned we have direct access of these services on our system and on the Logitech system as well. And that really changed the way kind of people listen to music, and I think that really, Sonos has been around for about 4 years now, and when we first came out with our product, we couldn't connect to any of these internet services. It was strictly music on your computer. And over time, we've been able to update the product and adapt it so that we can now add these subscription services, and such as Rhapsody and Sirius and Napster and Pandora, and provide people with this content over the internet, and that's really changed people's desires and tastes, and now people want to listen to different stuff and explore. And so I think it's a really good thing, but it's really in its infancy right now, and there's a lot of work that could be done, but there's a lot of great services out there, and definitely go check out Pandora. It's available on, if you have, I know some of you mentioned you have iPhones, they have an iPhone app for it. It's free on the PC, but it's a really cool example of kind of that next step of connecting you with the music that's widely available.
So I'm curious from the audience, how many of you find high-quality MP3s okay? I mean, the way I listen to music is different from what I've heard all of the other panelists say. I mean, I have a large music collection. I want to hear it at its best. So I create a huge playlist with my favorite songs from all my CDs, which took me a long time to build, and then I randomize it. And so I've got Neal radio all the time.
So you use the shuffle is equivalent of the shuffle function on
right.
On the iPod.
And I'm not a headphone guy except when everybody's asleep, and so I'm listening to my speakers, high quality music all the time, and it's varied, and it's always stimulating. There are times when I want to listen to something special, but most of the time I want to be surprised and reminded of all the good music that's out there. So I don't necessarily want it to be like what I've heard you guys talk about. I mean, I want it to be more random, more radio-like, but only stuff I like.
More radio-like. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like...
Wait, can we get to... What was your question for the audience? Because
Well, I'm curious, how many of you... It's like when I listen to internet radio, it's like Sunday morning, and they want me to fix breakfast, and I'm still waking up, and the quality, while okay, it's not what I would seriously listen to. But I do like the Paris station.
So how many people are satisfied with a well-ripped MP3 quality?
Like what, 320?
Yeah.
128?
320.
I can live with 320.
Right, but that's not internet
no,
radio.
That's not it. Anybody really happy at all with internet radio? Anybody? How many people have listened to internet radio? With it? And the quality, pretty.
It really depends.
I think it depends upon where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to listen,
Yeah.
then internet radio isn't good. MP3 MP3.
You know, when the stock market's dropping, 24 kilobytes per second is just fine.
Right.
Can I ask you guys? Do you know of Music IP? And they do this algorithm that searches through music and whatnot and finds things that you might like. And is Music IP one of the engines behind Pandora or stuff like that?
Well, actually, the engine behind Pandora is actually this thing called the Music Genome Project. Yeah. And what they do is they go out and they have these musicologists who listen to tracks, and they're paid to just sit there and listen to them. And then they have 250 awesome job if you can get it.
Music's now done with.
Get to live in the Bay Area and listen to music all day. But so yeah, they listen to the music and they rate every track on about 250 some odd different individual characteristics, whether it's vocal harmonies or male vocals, it's in a minor key, it's fast tempo, but it's very.
Do they have a checklist of
it's not subjective stuff. It's very objective things that they can categorize it by, and then they run all of these songs through their program and try to find similarities between the tracks based upon the musical properties. And what's really nice about that is you get a lot of great music discovery because it's not biased to playing a particular track based upon is that artist popular or is that it's strictly based upon the music and what it sounds like and what's there. And I think for me,
so is that Music IP? Is it the same?
It's not. It's a Music Genome. It's a separate thing that's run by Pandora. Yeah.
Right.
But for me, the great thing about these services is, the quality's not really there. But what it did for me was it opened up discovery and made it something that you can do without a cost. So if you have, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Rhapsody or Napster. Basically, what they are these jukebox in the sky concepts where you have. You pay your $13 a month, and then you have access to their entire catalog of 5 million some odd songs. And the great part about that is that you can start listening to a particular artist. Maybe someone recommends something to you, and you can listen to their whole album. It's only going to be an MP3 streamed. But if you like that album, then you can go buy it in a higher quality format and rip it to a lossless format or a WAV file and play it on your high fidelity music system. But for discovery at $13 a month, unlimited tracks, it's a great way to just learn about new music. And the difference between, say, something like Rhapsody and Napster versus Pandora or internet radio is that in Rhapsody and Napster, you can actually pick the content. So you can go there and say, I want to listen to this particular album and only listen to that album instead of just
if you
getting
don't
fed
know, the beauty of Pandora is it, and the thing about good FM radio is the element of surprise, of finding things you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I find Rhapsody sort of boring in that, okay, so they maybe have a few more things than I have in my own collection, but A, the quality is not there. B, if I knew what I wanted to listen to already, I would just go to my own music library and play it.
Yep.
The whole point is I want someone to surprise me, delight me, show me a bigger world than I already have.
And that basically brings up a great point is, I probably don't have the most extensive music collection, but it's fairly extensive, and I've ripped it all, and I've got plenty of vinyl. And I totally agree that it's in discovery. I remember in high school where a guy came over and he goes, you have to hear this band, Steve, you have to hear this band. It's called King Crimson. And I was like, and in the beginning it was out there, but being a musician, it's, some people say music for musicians. But, and there are times where, okay, there are certain playlists I like, but the music discovery, which is what they're talking about, as much as there's certain albums that I'm sure quite a few of us play often. There's some we play less often, but we cherish. But it is in this discovery of new music, and this is something that, I've met, what's her name, Rosen, before she bailed from RIAA, and I've attended and met some other people with the Grammy organization and all that, and they were saying how all this online was going to kill it. And I was talking to them saying, no, people are going to find, like they're saying, more music, and they're going to buy the music because they're discovering more of it, and they didn't get that. They just the music industry just saw it as, well, if they can listen to it for free or almost for free online, well, we're going to lose a sale of another silver disc. And this is an important part that, there's still a lot of them. Okay, you do have HD Tracks, which does high resolution music. You've got Music Giants, which also does high resolution music. But for a majority of places online, it's hard to find, because we're audiophiles and we're passionate about sound quality, high resolution music. When we do find something we love, that getting it in a high resolution format, sure, you can buy the disc, but it would be nice if okay, we paid an extra $5 or whatever it is
to
a
get
month,
it uncompressed.
and just get it on, just stream it to me. I mean, the bandwidth
one
is there
more-
now. We're no longer using dial-up. We no longer have acoustic modems, for
Of
God's
course,
sake.
one issue, Steve, in terms of the word high-resolution music, I think it's very confusing that we don't have a clear definition of what high-resolution music is. I mean, for me, the working definition of standard resolution is 44:1. To be high-resolution, it's got to be higher than 44:1. Music Giants currently does 44:1 and calls it high resolution, but they do not, like HD Tracks or like the new AIX service, offer anything above the 44:1 or 48K if it's a AC3 kind of deal. So I think that's a little confusing to people. And I think as audiophiles, I don't know, I've never really been that happy with 44:1. I remember the first time I heard my first CD player, and I think I lasted about 10 seconds before it turned that off. Obviously, it's gotten better. The algorithms for DACs have gotten better. The filters are not the brick wall filters, and we've gotten used to listening to the distortions and being able to listen through them and not have them be quite as distracting. But for audiophiles and even for music lovers, the goal is to get the recording process and the technology out of the way between us and the music, and to do that we need higher resolution than 44:1.
I think 44:1 would. I think in general 44:1 would be fine for people. And the real problem is the record producers are screwing it up before. It's not 44:1, even though it's 44:1. Because it's crap to start with, it's compressed and all that stuff. But I want to go back to music discovery and what you said about doing your record collection and playing music on random. So how many people play their iPods on shuffle all the time? Not as many as I thought. So you should all write this down, www.musicip.com. And it's a program that you can download for free, and when you put it in your computer and you point it at your hard drive that has all your music on it, and the hard drive and the music can be 44:1, and I think it reads, I don't know if it reads 96K, really high resolution files, and I agree, high resolution, if you say high resolution is better than should be better than CDs, but it crawls the music and it characterizes. It does sort of the music genome thing. It's whether it's sonant or dissonant. Is it diatonic, or is it in some weird East Indian key, or does it repeat? Does it change keys? Is it sparse? Is it dense? Are there vocals? And it characterizes this music, creates a little fingerprint of the music, and then
In your files or
in your files. On your computer.
Is this an additional metadata tag to your music?
No, it holds
or
the
is
library.
It a database?
It's a metadata database that it holds about the music on your server.
Okay.
It's an extension of over here. It's an extension of the standard metadata that you can get from Gracenode or AMG. So it's a bolt-on in that environment.
And for anyone who doesn't know, metadata is just all that artist track name, album artwork, year, genre, all that information that's stored in the digital files.
Metadata is data that defines the file that you're looking at.
It's the liner notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you pick a song that that's like music you want to listen to. Bob Marley or whatever, you pick this song, and then it'll go, okay, here's 100 or however many tracks that are kind of like that out of your music collection. And you can set it to ignore stylism, right? So if you pick a Latin music track, if you put it on, I don't want to ignore the style, it'll bring in more Latin music. But if you put in ignore the style, it'll do music that's like that, and it may not be Latin music. It may be Mozart, a funny little Mozart piece that just happens to be kind of boppy or something. It is really cool, and it's your own music, so it's music that supposedly you like. And what's really interesting to me is how often I discover music in my own music, because normally when you play a CD, how many times do you actually get to track 8 or 9 or 10? Okay, you don't. And what happens is all of a sudden you're going, I didn't know I had this. What the heck is this anyway? And you got to go look at it. And when people start talking about, when you started earlier talking about going up to your music collection, oh, I remember the drummer from this, and I got to go find the CD. That sounds like work to me, because I find one song I like, and I push the button, and the whole
And you
morning
put it
is
on
making
repeat.
No, I don't put it on repeat. I don't
like
put it on
my niece.
repeat. That's the point. Is I got all sorts of music from my own collection that is high resolution. Well, 44, and it's all
standard resolution.
Now I'll tell you something
Standard
else, and I don't know if you even know this, but you can punch a button in that program, and it sends the playlist to your squeeze box. And so now the playlist, here's my, I'm going to call this morning music. Push the button. Then I take that playlist and I go send this to my squeeze box, and then on all my squeeze boxes I can push the button and pull up that playlist anywhere in my house. It is really, really cool.
That's true.
Now, and now I'll take it one step farther, and the thing that pisses me off about Pandora and all those places, because they're not taking advantage of this, and this is, I think, critically important. Once you can characterize the music by some fuzzy algorithm, by a fuzzy filter like that, once you can characterize the music, then you can open up a place where any garage band in the world can upload music to, right? So you have this central company. It should be the big record labels, because they're going to be too stupid to do this, but you open up this place, and anybody can upload music, and then these fuzzy filters go and look at the music that's uploaded, and they can tell that if the guy can keep a beat or not, and they can tell if they're singing on key or not. They can tell anything, okay? Then they put the good stuff in with the rest of the mix, and that you push a button, you make a playlist.
So the Sex Pistols would never make that list.
What
good would that be?
No, they might, because fuzzy algorithms can understand those kinds of things. If fuzzy logic can eventually learn that stuff.
What would that do to Dylan, though?
And the advantage here is that you don't only get artists that have come through the farm leagues to get there. You can get anybody, and the royalties will be cheaper. So they could actually, right, they don't have to pay as much money for the music, right? And so you can get music that's totally fresh at some freaking garage band in Omaha that rock, right? And all of a sudden they'll be there, and virally people, and then what you also need is a remote control that says, I want more agitating music, or I want more relaxing music, or I want something with a faster beat, or I want something that's a slower beat. And eventually you can get enough smarts in these things to know that the computer knows what you mean by that. So anyway, that's my gripe.
Well, yeah, I think that tying all the services together is something that's really lacking right now. Before earlier, we really are in the infancy. I mentioned we're really in the infancy of this, and you've got some great services for discovery. Pandora is one of them. Yeah. Internet radio also is a great way to discover new music. You've got great ways to listen to unlimited collections with Rhapsody and Napster, and then you've also got plenty of ways to buy the content. Not plenty in high quality, but there are ways now where you can get some high quality music, or you could just go buy the CD. But the problem is no one is packaging this together as one piece. And so the sales cycle for me over the last couple years has really shifted. I'll start by listening to Pandora or getting a recommendation from someone, and I'll discover a single track by an artist that I've never heard of. And then I'll go over to Rhapsody, and I'll pull up that artist in Rhapsody, and I'll start listening to the album and kind of give a test run on the album, see if I really like all the tracks, or if it was just this one particular track that I liked. If I do find an album I really like, I'm the stickler, so I like to have lossless music, and so I'll go out and buy the CD and rip it in a lossless format so that I have a really nice high-quality version of it. Would it be great if there was one place to get all this? Yeah, right now there isn't, but all the pieces are there. You just kind of have to put the puzzle together yourself. So that, and also with the marketing, we're talking about high-quality music. It's really tricky with the way that the marketing companies work now when they describe stuff. For example, CD quality. You hear that thrown around a lot, right? You can be almost guaranteed that anytime someone says this is CD quality, it is absolutely not CD quality. Right. It is 100% far away from it, right?
It might be digital ready.
Like digital ready speakers.
There's another great market.
Digital ready speakers?
I have digital ready headphones from Sony.
So so even with high definition, music giants where they're touting it as high definition music, and really it's just standard CD music. So it's really tricky with the way that they market stuff now to go to the right places. And so hopefully we've provided some places where Music Giants is one of them where you can get really nice high quality music, and hopefully we'll provide you some other options.
Chesky Music also. What did they just
No,
do?
that's HD Tracks.
Oh, that is HD.
That's HD Tracks. Who I actually had hoped they were supposed
Hey,
to
now,
be
they're
here.
raising their hand up there. So
There's a hand.
They're raising their hands, so I guess we should. Yes, sir.
What,
Okay,
Kurt?
I wanted to add a couple things to some sources that you guys might be interested in. Another website that's very interesting, that's very similar to Music IP, is called MyStrands, MyStrands. Definitely worth a check out. It tends to be, well, some of you might fit into the demographic they're looking to serve. So it's a younger crowd generally. So there's a social networking component that you might not want to wade through, but it's really quite interesting if you want to check it out. Another company that is really interesting, all these are digital media related companies, Web 2.0 kinds of companies. Another one is called lala.com.
Yes.
That's a very good resource, LALA.
Lala.
And the way this works is you can listen to any song for free all the way through one time. And you do that, you just get a password and you can listen to anything you want. You can then buy that tune, any tune or any CD or whatever, keep it, and then you can stream it anywhere at 128K. Not very exciting, but you might care about that, especially if you're a mobile user. It's potentially interesting, not for you hardcore audiophiles like Mr. Rochlin. So then you can take the next step further and download it at 256, then go the next step and buy the physical CD, and everything you spend as you go forward carries over to the next purchase. So it's like getting a single license with multiple instances of that license. Really rather interesting. They also have a CD trading function, which is kind of fun. That's how they started. And then one other one related to this, kind of consolidating like Sonos and Logitech have done, kind of integrating services in with other kinds of functions like your own collection, is a browser called Songbird.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That's a really interesting play. It's really a player, not a browser, but a player. It's got a long way to go, but they're continuing to integrate functions, and they're running kind of like a Mozilla, which is kind of interesting, like a Firefox kind of a play, though it's for profit. So go figure. You can rationalize that. But anyway, I just wanted to toss those out.
All right, well.
Maybe if you guys think maybe we should open it up for some questions for the moment, because I'm sure that we've been run on to the mouth. So just
we got the
please use the
microphone mavens for you here. So.
Thank you.
My question was just for Neal, how you're approaching it with the universal music server approach, and what you feel the benefits are for higher quality listening, those types of things.
It's a sort of a tough question to know where to start, but what I do is I provide you with bit-perfect copies of your CD and a reservoir if you want to download high-resolution data. And then I include Squeeze Center. So I designed it first to work with the transporter and the Squeezebox products. I provide you with a dedicated wireless transmitter so that you don't have to steal bandwidth from your home network and have your music drop out. So I give you 54 megabits per second for that. And I automatically rip your CDs, get the metadata for you. So what I've done is I've made it pretty bulletproof and easy to load up the reservoir, and then you can use it with any player. You can use it with a Logitech player, Sonos. You could use it with a Benchmark, USB DAC, any Ethernet-based DAC, that sort of thing.
You just mentioned DACs. I don't know if we have any other questions. I don't want to cut. Well, just really quickly on touching on DACs. One of the things with the streamed music that you can do to improve the quality significantly is get a product with a digital output, either optical or digital coax, go outboard into a nice outboard DAC, let that do all the processing from D to A, and you'd be surprised that you can take a 128K or 160K stream and make it sound really good with the right processing done outboard. So there are ways to make it sound better, not perfect, of course.
I got to add in there, being somebody who makes a DAC, okay, that you could do that with, our little micro DACs, I don't agree with that. I think you've got to be playing your own library to actually get good quality music. But I will tell you that just because your music has gone over a home network doesn't mean it's going to have any degradation as compared to it spinning it on a CD. Okay, right. You're basically not going to be able to tell the difference unless you really want to do some, real listening room stuff and trying to listen for jitter differences and things like that at a very low level. But fundamentally, and in some cases, the jitter is less going over the networks because
the HD source.
Well, and
Right.
you have to rebuffer it and reclock it in the local device anyway.
Right.
So it ends up being very, very. So you can have real, very good CD quality streaming over your home networks. Now, other streams, they don't sound very good, and 192 is minimum for something that I would consider really acceptable that I'd want to listen to for a long time. I do listen to internet radio in my garage, but I'm underneath the car, or on my motorcycle.
So I want to disagree with Tyll for a second.
Same here.
Because, in fact, unless you're...
How many people disagree with Tyll?
Okay, that's a separate survey. But unless you spend as much on your CD as you did on your wheels, probably a music server is hard drive based. It's going to sound better than a typical CD player up to several $1,000s. I mean, it's really an improvement. It's inherently less jitter. It's technically superior in many ways. A CD player is interpreting the bits as it spins. A music server already has it. It uses the foolproof technology that makes your word processor work.
And also, it's done error correction when it first burned in your CD to correct some of those issues. I'm going to disagree with Tyll on the issue that all internet radio sucks. Above 128, I know it's bad, but you're right about so many other things. Just shut up. 128 or above actually can sound really good when it's running into a good quality DAC. If you're into classical music, WNYC New York has a special internet feed that is just strictly classical, and it sounds, there's depth, there's imaging, there's a sense of the hall, there's all those things that we classical music lovers need to make us feel all warm and fuzzy, and that's a 128 kilobytes per second feed.
Really quickly on the radio issue, I agree with the bills that internet radio, the quality delivery generally sucks. My local NPR affiliate broadcasts at 32K.
That sounds sort
which
of
is
like
like,
this.
yeah, it's AM quality. But
Worse.
we're in a really exciting time in the industry, and I can talk for hours about that, but I won't. But I'll get straight to the point, which is that it's only going to get better, and don't underestimate the power of sending an email to your local FM station, letting them know you listen to them online, and asking them when they're going to bump it up.
Yep.
See, now, I'd like to comment that I sold a transporter to a guy who was a manager of an NPR station back east, and I asked him how good his feed was, over the internet, and he said it wasn't very good, and I asked him why. And he said basically because the money and the funding came from over the air. So it's up to the audience, all of us, to shut off the FM dial and start listening over the internet. And when it's their only feed, I bet the quality comes up.
Yep. And in a similar vein, the concept when people said, "Oh, you can stream it to anywhere at 120K," and everybody goes, "Oh, that's terrible," and I agree, "Oh, that's terrible." But remember, this is a convergence problem. The problem that is really here is that you really have to have a lot of things converge and be able to use them together. And convergence looks easy, but it's very expensive and very difficult.
It involves lawyers.
And it involves all sorts of lawyers. But
really expensive.
It is the masses buying into it that will finance the ability later down the road to have all the pieces converge, which would include higher resolution. So it is important to look at some of these things and go, yeah, the audio quality sucks, but they're solving this part of the problem. And yeah, this is a certain way, but they are solving. So you got to take the good with the bad a little bit in some of this.
Right. We have a question in the question back.
I have two simple questions. The first one's for the panel. Could you please compare a personalized music station based on Pandora versus Yahoo Radio? And the second question is specifically for the gentleman at Slim Devices. When will my Squeezebox be able to stream Yahoo Radio? Thank you.
I guess you like Yahoo Radio.
I like Yahoo Radio.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and address the second question first. Make sure you've subscribed to our mailing list because we're going to have some big news in less than 30 days.
Actually, before we,
You heard it here first.
before we go to the next question, I just wanted to maybe bring up something, unless you have direct.
Oh no, I was just thought we were going to answer his other question about what
Which
we all
we
felt
like
about
better?
which we like. Yeah,
I don't know.
Pandora. I'm a Pandora fan.
I don't know. I'm
No
a
opinion.
complexifier, man. I like the fact that Yahoo had some more options and a little more control than Pandora. Pandora, I mean, it's good to keep it simple too. I mean, but there's some better other options on Yahoo Radio. I mean, there's more things you can do.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, it's just about the ease of, depending on what you were looking for.
Yeah.
I have no opinion. Never used Yahoo Radio.
The great thing about Pandora is that, what you were talking about, how the indie artists and trying to get music from people that maybe are unknown.
Yeah.
Pandora claims that they do that, and they do it to some extent. Better if you're in Northern California and you're a local indie band than if you're anywhere else. But they're trying to bridge that gap and allow people to submit their music, and so I find that with Pandora I get more random stuff, and I have really weird tastes, and so I like to listen to random stuff, whereas it's a more controlled experience, I feel like, on some of the other personalized internet radio services.
Okay,
And I
next.
prefer less control.
Actually, before the next question, there's one issue we didn't really address earlier that I would love to talk a little bit about, and that is support. As we get more sophisticated devices, the ability of the manufacturers and purveyors of those devices to give us a level of support so we can use them is increasingly important. Generally, is something I'm criticizing, but actually in the case of three of our panels, because I'm not real familiar with Neal's product, I am quite familiar with the support of Headroom. I'm familiar with Sonos support. I'm familiar with Slim Devices support. And in every case, they get it. They get it that if you go to their website, you will find not only a lot of information about how to use their device, but a lot of information from other users about how they're using their devices, and also in terms of response to questions. Sonos, I don't know, I had an interesting experience with Apple recently where I had a product that was defective out of the box, and I had to go through trying to get an RA, and I spent 20 minutes on the phone with them, and I was not a happy camper. In my experience with both Slim Devices and Sonos, if I got on the phone and had a question, I had a real human being who could answer that question in under 5 minutes. And that's really, really important.
That is, hugely important for us. We have our tech support facilities are located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Santa Barbara, California, where we have our offices. We hire very well-educated people who are happy to talk to you about a variety of issues, because we realize when you're dealing with a system like this, you might not have specific questions about Sonos or setting it up. You might have questions about ripping music or how do you get various music services that are not related to us. And those are the types of questions that you have to be willing to answer if you want to play in this new digital age, because that's what people want to have. That's what they need help with.
And the traditional services would go, oh, that's not a problem with our product. I'm sorry, we can't help you.
Or completely wipe out
No,
your
they
hard
would, yeah.
drive, reload the OS.
Yeah.
And along those lines, the best ripping program is Exact Audio Copy, EAC. It's free.
Yeah.
The best player program on a Windows box is FooBar, and it's free.
Slow down, people. You need to write it out.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Exact
spell
Audio
it out.
Copy, EAC. Make sure you've got the lame encoder turned on. It comes stock with it turned on, but you could screw up and put on another encoder. That's the codec that figures out how to make the MP3 file from a regular file.
Alternately, you could just buy a music vault and it'll do it for you. So.
Now that's support.
Yeah. So Exact Audio Copy and FooBar, and then there's also ASIO for All is a plug-in to FooBar that bypasses the K mixer in a window box. The K mixer is a little mixer that you can see on the screen, okay? And there's some, even with all the volumes all the way up, there's some bit mashing that it does. And if you bypass it, you can get bit perfect stuff off a Windows box.
Another player that I've used for a long time, that Winamp is one. It's owned by AOL now, but it's still really lightweight, and it has a lot of plugins and a lot of really cool functionality that you can do with it also.
It's got a lot more functions and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's not the sick, hardcore.
It's not as
Well,
hardcore.
that's because you're sick and hardcore.
Yeah, right.
But we really need to get to the next
and
question.
as are these people out here.
Exact, as am I. But
Kurt,
Next-
I just want to clarify real quick. Tyler, you want to specify XP versus Vista for the K-Mixer as your...
Oh yeah, and I really don't know enough about it so if you know the details.
K-Mixer is for XP only, I believe. Vista has resolved the issues allegedly with K-Mixer.
Alternately, the Music Vault has none of these issues.
Yeah, right.
or you could just use a Mac.
Okay.
Okay.
No, there's some big problems with a Mac.
Oh,
Big
gentlemen,
problems.
Hold the thought. We have a question.
I got two questions, actually.
Two.
One of them is I'm in the process of starting to rip all my vinyl. Is there any, and I've been trying to figure out how to create different database for my own metadata. Are there any databases already out there that can either pre-populate metadata for vinyl, I mean even old stuff, or are there databases which are pre-packaged where you just have to type stuff in instead of constructing it yourself?
How are your typing skills?
What?
Music
How are your
Music
typing
Vault
skills?
will take care of that eventually for you, evidently.
Yeah.
No.
That's one of the weak links of bringing your own vinyl in is you do have to populate your own metadata. I mean, some programs like I want to say there's a program here that has basically RIAA in your. They have the ad in the program there.
It's virtual. That software is called Virtual Vinyl.
Right. Virtual
Only
Vinyl.
works on a Mac. I've been begging him to make it work on.
But you still
Okay,
have to
but-
type in your metadata.
Okay, but
I
how
have
do
a partial
you
solution
how do you
for you.
type in your metadata? I mean, I just get a WAV file to begin
So
with.
you need to buy some software that's designed for ripping your records to your PC. You can get really good results if your sound card, USB sound card, whatever, is pretty high quality. It'll be very, very close to a high quality LP playback
So what
system.
kind of software?
I don't recall the name, but there's
There's a thing called Helium Music, Helium 2, Helium
There's
Music.
even some free software. I mean, if you want to use, and this might be too mainstream, but iTunes, right? If you want to just download iTunes and you take your WAV files, you can convert them into an Apple lossless file,
And then you get
add all the
info.
metadata you want. And they'll even actually, if you type it in and stuff, you can get the artwork and stuff. And that's actually what you're missing on the WAV file, because the WAV file is going to be just a bit-for-bit copy of what's on the CD, but you can't attach any of the metadata to it. There are some
Yeah,
tricky
because I was
ways
gonna
also-
be taking my own
Audacity.
photos of the album covers
Well,
and stuff.
also
Yeah.
in Audacity, which is a free recording program, that has an area of info where you can add metadata.
Okay.
Now, if you
I've got
get
that.
pretty inexpensive album ripping software, and again, I don't recall the name of what I was using.
I was
It
using
lets-
LP Ripper.
Yeah, LP Ripper, so it lets you grab the whole side of the album, then you go in and look for the spaces between the tracks and break it up. So so that works great.
Yeah, the software program that they're exhibiting here at the show, and I thoroughly encourage you to check them out because it's a pretty trick program. Is called Channel D.
Oh, that's
in
it,
room
yeah.
517. It's for Mac only, but it's cool enough to make you want to buy a Mac.
It's way cool.
It's way trick.
Okay,
Way
thank you. The other question I had was, what's the state of the art or technology for having a wireless link between your home and your car?
doesn't happen. Yeah, not very there yet.
Beautiful dream.
It'd be great,
Well, if I can, this is where the geek in me comes out. Actually, Bill Gates was investigating having a net of satellites. This is going back about 8-10 years ago. Net of satellites in space that actually would then enable that type of idea. I think it was called teledesic or whatnot. I think it's actually in the industry news on Enjoy the Music. And it was an interesting idea, and then so think of it kind of like how some people get satellite TV with DSS, but it would be radio and all. Unfortunately, that kind of wound up not happening, and so you basically have XM radio. Right now, it is a dream. At some point in the future, the future's not written. I have a feeling that might actually, in my opinion, migrate to something such as once wireless, 3G or better. I mean, it'll like what some people do with their iPhone now or whatnot. Eventually, technology hopefully will be such that bandwidth will be multiple times more than we have now, just as it's multiple times more now than it was just 5 years ago. And then actually, instead of it being through satellites, you'll be in your car, and it will be just through wireless connections.
Well, there's some good news. Sprint is field testing a WiMAX program in Philadelphia. It's already begun. So if you're a Sprint customer out there, you can actually get high bandwidth internet in your car. My immediate thought was, okay, how can I get a squeeze box out to somebody I know in Philadelphia with like a 12-volt adapter to give it a try? Sprint really wants to be the owner of WiMAX, and they're calling it 4G. If you see their ads where their president's talking about 4G, that's what he means. I don't know why they picked Philadelphia. Maybe it's the cheesesteaks, but I'm hoping that they field tested in California soon.
I just wanted to touch really quickly on one of your first question about metadata and ripping it. This is a problem that's a pretty big problem because a lot of people have a lot of tracks and there's not metadata on it. And what do you do with that? And it's a really arduous process to go in there track by track or album by album and fix this. And my background is really in computer science, and I thought this was a problem that wouldn't be solved, but we are getting closer to it. It's not there. It's still a dream yet, but I don't know if you guys, if anyone out there has an iPhone, there's an application you can download called Shazam. Yeah. And what it does is you just hold it up to whatever's playing, and it will tell you within about 15 seconds what song is playing. And it's crazy good. I've played stuff from, it's like a cover that some band has done of some other song, and it will identify the cover band version of that song. And so we are getting to the point where we can analyze the sound data and get a better idea of what actually is playing and kind of populate that stuff automatically. It doesn't yet, but it's kind of the first.
But it's just the first step towards.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's very accurate though. I really recommend you give it a try. It's called Shazam. 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 It's a free app. It's in the top 50 on the free iTunes apps, or iPhone apps.
It's probably also worth noting, just as a note, that Grace Note, the people that go and label your CD, when you rip your CD, the CD does not contain the track information, what's on there, and a place called Grace Note is the one that when you rip your music, it populates what the tracks are. And it just uses the checksum. It adds up the number of bits in each track and kind of identifies this track is this many bits long, and that many track is that many bits long. And then it goes and looks at a library of how many bits are on the various tracks and just says, oh, that's this album because that's how many bits are on the tracks. And the reason why I mention it is because you can't rip an LP and then use the LP bits or something like that. It has to be the exact number of bits.
That's a great point. You'd have to use some other technology like this that's actually analyzing the track and figuring it out. And you can get into tricky stuff with different volume levels, and there's a lot of things that can change that, which is why
remastered CDs of the same music, like if you take a mobile fidelity version of Asia, then it has to have somebody already put in that's the MoFi version, because it won't identify it as Asia, because the checksum will be different.
Right. Yep.
How many of you are, well, I want to let that guy ask, but.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir. You have a question? Earlier. Wait, let's get a microphone so everyone can hear. Thank you, sir.
We like giving people microphones. It's fun.
Well, maybe this is a real can of worms, but earlier you were starting to allude there are problems with the Mac platform also. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. I'll just, I know this anecdotally, okay? I don't know this from personal experience, but I know from a couple people who should know what they're talking about. If you have your Mac iTunes library on a network hard drive server, it will sometimes glitch and start copying the network hard drive library back onto the machine that's playing the iTunes. So it has a hard time sometimes dealing with the networked library when you're using a client computer that's different, is my understanding. And somebody else said, Wes Phillips was just going on, and he had been talked to another person that had exactly the same problem, and it was